The character I chose to analyze for the nature versus nurture argument is Jinx from the series Arcane.
That's me!
In this video, I'll be discussing how nurture has shaped Jinx into who she is. Nurture is how your environment, culture, family upbringing, and opportunities in life determine who you become and how you behave. In this argument, I will begin by discussing anthropology. At the beginning of the series, we get introduced to Jinx as the younger sister of Vi. We get a glimpse into Jinx's struggle to keep up with her sister and her friends Milo and Clagger. Since Milo is always criticizing Jinx about her ability to fight or help them commit crimes, Jinx feels like she is dragging them down. Jinx wants to feel useful and part of the team, so she tries to make it up with inventions. Jinx tries to invent these explosive bombs, but they don't always work. After the accident with one of Jinx's gadgets exploding a building, Vander, Vi's and Jinx's father figure dies, and Vi gets falsely imprisoned, and Jinx is left all alone. This is when we see Silco take Jinx under his wing and become a new father figure for her. Silco is a drug lord and a businessman of Zaun. Silco nurtured and shaped Jinx into becoming a fighter, so he had more people to fight the war on Piltover with. The first time we see Jinx after the time skip of about 6 to 7 years, she is fighting off people with her weapons that she invented herself. This is important because we can see how her environmental change while living with Silco influenced her fighting skills and how far her inventions have come. Her inventions would fall under material culture because they are tangible items that are created by her and have meaning. They represent her ability to battle for Silco's cause of Zaun's independence from Piltover. Jinx lives in Zaun, a city that has a lot of crime, violence, and poverty. Zaun has a lot of illegal businesses involving Shimmer. Shimmer is a drug in this series that is highly addictive and commonly used on the streets of Zaun. Piltover, the neighboring city, controls Zaun. Piltover is very wealthy because they have corrupt rulers who allow the people of Zaun to be exploited. Cultural materialism is the belief that the materials or conditions within the environment influence how a culture develops, creating the ideas and ideology of a culture. Cultural materialists believe that if something is not of use in a society's ability to produce and reproduce, then it will disappear from society altogether. Since Zaun is oppressed and exploited by Piltover, the people living there have to resort to stealing and selling contraband to get by. Shimmer, being highly addictive, is bought by the people in Zaun, and in turn creates a need for it in the society. Shimmer has greatly affected how the culture of Zaun was developed, and growing up in this kind of environment had effects on what kind of person Jinx grew up to be. Next, we will look at Jinx's character development through the sociological perspective. Jinx, like others from Zaun, is trying to seek revenge on Piltover's council, which has been responsible for the poor living conditions in Zaun for years. However, unlike other characters, Jinx is willing to kill anybody that gets in her way, whether they're from Piltover or Zaun. This is Jinx expressing deviant behavior. Deviant behavior is behavior that differs from the social norms of the group and therefore is judged as wrong by members of that group. There are multiple causes of this deviance, mostly stemming from early childhood experience. On one hand, Jinx learned how to do crime due to her environment. Jinx would partake in criminal activity with Vi, Milo, and Clagger to feel like she was part of the team. On the other hand, criminals learned to think and act in certain ways and were rewarded for deviant behavior. We can see this demonstrated after Silco took her in, and Jinx did crimes to please Silco since he was the only person she had left. Symbolic interactionism is how individuals learn about society through personal experience. We see symbolic interactionism when Jinx goes to the same bar she had spent moping around at as a kid. We can tell that Jinx has a different perspective on this place now that Vander, Milo, and Clagger have died, and Vi is gone. Jinx now associates this place with memories of her family instead of just a place to get juice. We can see she is much more happy now than she was in the past in this particular place. Another time we see symbolic interactionism is when Jinx visits the old boxing arena. Contrasting to the memories she had associated with the juice bar, these memories aren't so good. In this scene, we can see Jinx trying to beat Vi's old high score, but failing. This place used to be a fun hideout where Jinx, her sister, and her friends could hang out. Now that they're all gone, the significance attached to this place has a much more somber and dark mood. This demonstrates that everybody's experiences are different and makes them unique. Every person will have different memories associated with a different place. It all depends on a personal experience. This proves how experiences in different environments have shaped Jinx. Moving on to the psychological part of this argument. Throughout the show, we can see Jinx's mental health get worse and worse. It starts with Jinx accidentally blowing up the building and killing her friends and Vander. After this terrible accident, Vi gets arrested and Silco meets Jinx. Years later, we can see Jinx experiencing hallucinations. In the DSM-5, which is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, the 5th edition, hallucinations falls under the schizophrenia spectrum and other psychotic disorders. The auditory and visual hallucinations are typically Milo and Clagger from the night of the explosion. Jinx's environment affects her mental state in huge amounts. Jinx has no support system or friends since Silco has cut her off from the world. She also has not had time to heal from the night of the accident because Silco is always saying how she should just need to forget about it her whole life and he is all she has now. When Jinx meets up with Vi, she recognizes that she has changed since they last saw each other.
I thought maybe you could love me like you used to. Even though I'm different.
Jinx has a lot of childhood traumas that make it hard for her when people call her weak. In that clip, you can see Jinx worrying about Silco, thinking she is weak. This stems from Milo calling her weak all those years ago when they were kids. Jinx also has a lot of paranoia about who she can trust and who is lying to her throughout the show. Jinx's environment with a lack of support system and traumatic experiences have led her to have hallucinations and paranoia. The psychological school of thought, social learning theory, means learning occurs through the observation and imitation of models. We can shape behaviors that are being learned by modeling desired behaviors and then rewarding them. Growing up, Jinx had many different role models that she learned from. First being her biological parents before they died during the battle on the bridge. Secondly, Vander before he died in the explosion from Jinx's bomb. And her last and most prominent parental figure being Silco. This theory states that humans can be molded by their environment. We can see that Jinx has changed drastically since being with Silco. And through Vi, we can see just how much. Jinx and Vi are very different people, with Jinx being more impulsive, chaotic, and lacking empathy, while Vi is very kind and empathetic. This is because they had different environments for a large part of their lives, because Vi went to jail while Jinx was with Silco. In the article, The Identity Dance, there was an experiment conducted between family-raised monkeys and nursery-raised monkeys to see which had more problems. The results were that, quote, if they don't have a good mother, then the troubled behavior comes out loud and clear. Quote, this can relate to the fact that Jinx never grew up with a stable parental figure. Many factors in your environment can influence our development, and our parents are a big part of that. This shows how much nurture can affect Jinx's behaviors and personality. In conclusion, Jinx went through many experiences that have shaped who she is throughout Arcane. The argument that Jinx's life has been more influenced by nurture has been proven through the lens of anthropology and the analysis of the material culture and cultural materialism, the lens of sociology and the analysis of Jinx's deviant behavior, and as well as the symbolic interactionism, and lastly, through the perspective of psychology and the analysis of Jinx's mental health and social learning theory.